Aloha, I'm Susan Loers, the founder and program director of Hawaii Fido Service Dogs, and this is Lauren Lasher, one of our volunteers who does the Community Outreach Educational Program. We're really excited today to share our information on what it is to have a service dog, train a service dog, and the laws involved in that. There's a lot of confusion about the laws, so we hope we can explain to you briefly what it's all about. So Lauren's going to explain what the ADA law of having a service dog is.
An ADA law, or the rules about what a service dog is, a service dog is a trained dog that has been trained to do 2 or more physical tasks to assist a person with a disability. Let me say that once again because it's easy to get confused. It's a well-trained dog that's been trained to do 2 or more tasks, physical tasks, to assist a person with a disability.
So Lauren said dog. He didn't say a puppy. He didn't say a goat or a snake. It is a dog. This is the law now, back according to 2011. And he also said the word tasks with an S. So that means more than one skill that the dog needs to be trained with. A task is something that the dog doesn't naturally do, like bark or come up and wag its tail. A task is something that is specifically trained to help the individual with a disability. So besides having a dog that is specifically trained, the individual must have a verifiable disability, and this has to be on a doctor's letter saying that this individual is disabled, which is something that is a permanent disability, and that how a dog would help them on that. So when we look to our dogs, the first thing we look at with little Zoe here is look at the demeanor. Look how mellow she is. She's not moving around. She's not sniffing. Lauren, why don't you talk a little bit about more of this?
All right. A couple of things when we talk, in fact, can I show? I'd like to show one of the things. So Zoe, so if I'm down on the ground, come on up. And if I need to get up, I could ask her to do a thing called a brace. So I'll say, Zoe, brace, and she'll hold her position and she'll help me get up. Or if we wanted to, for instance, if the phone rang, I say, Zoe, can you get the phone? Can you get the phone? Oh, good girl. Bring the phone. Bring me the phone. Oh, pick it up. Pick it up. There you go. There you go. So the task that Zoe's been trained is to do things like that. She could open a door. She could pick up things. She could help me go up and down the steps. When we go the stairs, she'll walk with me. Some of the things about what makes a service dog unusual or more special than a lot of the dogs is some of the behaviors that they do. If you notice right now, Zoe is attentive to me and she's waiting for our next command. That's one of the critical factors of a service dog, that the service dog is in tune with the handler. They're also well behaved, they've got a good nature, and they don't bark or bite. Oh, also, although Zoe is off the leash right now, historically, a service dog is always on leash, and we often say 4 on the floor. So if you see a dog in a stroller, historically, that's not what a service dog would do. A service dog would be attentive with 4 on the floor and leashed, although Zoe's not leashed for today.
So they would have to have the ability to help do the task or the skill. So dogs in purses and backpacks and strollers don't have that ability to help their individual with the skills that they need to do. Now this was just a minor, very few things that have been mentioned. Dogs can do so many wonderful things for their individuals. They can help them walk, they can guide them, they can alert them to noise, they can alert to medical situations. So now we're going to discuss the types of service dogs out there. The very first service dogs, and the one that's most common, are guide dogs. These are wonderful dogs. They do need to be trained by a program because they are trained to do multiple things that you wouldn't even think about, like looking up, like blocking people from stepping into the road, finding doorways, finding fire exits. These dogs are very, very highly trained dogs, and they've been around since World War II. The next set of dogs in the service dog echelon is assistant dogs, and that's what Zoe is. She assists. She can pick up things, she can help walk, She can go get things. She can
Open doors.
open doors, take off shoes, get clothes out of the dryer. Those are the common things that we train our dogs to do. The next type of service dogs are hearing alert dogs. And these are getting to be lesser and lesser around the world because we have hearing aids, we have the implants. So the demand for the hearing dogs have definitely decreased. But those dogs do alert to at least 3 basic sounds. Fire alarm is number 1 and probably the most important. They can alert to a door knock, telephone, name call, that type of stuff. The next one on the list are what we call medical alert dogs. And these are the most current in the industry. And this too is an amazing dog. These dogs have an innate ability to know that something is going to be happening to their handler, as a diabetic alert dog, a seizure alert dog. They have cancer dogs. They have other type of dogs that have picked up scents, and they let their individual knows that there's something going on in their body. Hard to train, but some people are doing it with the right dogs and the right training equipment on that.
Can I add something, Susan?
You can.
As you're going into the dogs? One of the things that we do with the dog is we start analysis of the dog's personality and characteristics and strength as soon as 3 days old.
We start at 3 days old with the training, but the traits we don't see till later.
And as we start to see the traits, like for instance, Zoe loves to retrieve things. She just loves to retrieve things. And so she ideally is a good dog to do that kind of stuff. As Susan was talking about the medical alert dogs, there are some dogs that almost innately are more in tune to the smells and the conditions of a person with a disability. And so what we do is, as we're training the dogs, and we do as much as almost 2 years of training, 18 to 24 months of training with the dog before they qualify as a service dog. But all along that path, we're evaluating the dogs to see what their tendencies are and what their strengths are. So that's an important thing, and I wanted to add that because Zoe is a great mobility assistance dog. She also, one of the other things that we do is we have dogs that work with people who have PTSD, and the dogs can either help calm the person down, or if they're standing in line, Zoe does this really well, to stand in front of the person or behind the person if they're feeling crowded.
Do you want to show that on there?
Well, one of the things that I like with Zoe, there's a chemical in our brain, oxytocin, and when that's stimulated, we feel relieved and calm. And a good way for that to happen is by sincere eye contact. So with Zoe, what I've trained her to do early along, I'll say, Zoe, Maka. And she'll give me that loving, gazing look until I feel calm. So sometimes a person who might have PTSD might be feeling a little stressed or a little amped up. They can go to the dog, and for a moment, they get that compassionate, empathetic gaze that's calming.
So I want to go back to our medical alert dogs. Under that category, there is medical alert, where the dog just senses something, and there is medical response. That means the dog responds to an incident that has already happened. An example would be a seizure. An individual has a seizure, drops to the ground. The dog takes that as a cue, will either go get help, go get a phone, or lie down next to that individual until the incident is over. That is a response on there. There are several legitimate programs training these dogs, and I can tell you more about that at the end of this segment. The other category, Lauren mentioned the PTS dog, very, very common request, and this is called under a psychiatric service dog. And the reasons they have different categories is they're trained to do different things. So besides the calming effect of gazing into the eyes, a PTS dog can also go into a dark room and turn on the lights. They can give the individual security by posing behind if they're in a crowded situation, giving them space. The dogs are taught to also come between the individual's legs or touch him. That is a calming effect. And they're doing a lot of really cool things with PTS and helping their individuals dealing with their triggers. And one of the newer categories, although it's been around for years, are autism dogs. And these are dogs specifically trained for individuals with autism. And again, they have individual skills that are different from service dogs. So it might be a dog that goes out and finds a runner. It might be a dog that interrupts certain stimulating behavior that some autistic children have. And it just might be a companion that is a connection out to the community on that. So that is basically what types of service dogs are out there. But we briefly want to talk about public access and going out in public with our dogs, and Lauren will cover that too.
All right. The issue of public access is an important issue because the disabled person has a right, if with their dog, to go any place that they can go. So a service dog that's qualified and well-trained has public access. What happens though sometimes is people will bring a dog, and if the dog misbehaves in public, the proprietors of a business can actually ask the person to take their dog out. That just because a dog has a vest or is recognized as a service dog does not mean that they have total public access. What they have to do also is to demonstrate appropriate behaviors. They have to either sit under a table or under a chair. They have to sit quietly without being animated, no barking, no growling. Those are some of the behaviors.
An obtrusive behavior. You should not know the dog is there. The dog shouldn't be in the way. The dog should be clean. If the dog is not clean, they can ask you to leave. The dog should not be begging, sitting on the chairs. You shouldn't be asking the waitresses to give a bowl of water for the dog. You shouldn't be feeding the dog. They should just be quietly by your side. And out in public walking around, they should not be a nuisance on there.
And they should always be on a leash as well.
That's a law.
It's
a leash law is that they need to be on there. So
yeah.
on that.
So it's important to realize, so if people bring a dog out and they say, well, this is a service dog, but the dog is misbehaving, then the proprietors of any business can ask that the dog be removed.
And they can also ask 2 questions.
Oh, this is important.
Very important.
That's
Go ahead.
right. Proprietors, sometimes people will come in with a service dog and they want to see if they could qualify that dog. So a proprietor is entitled to ask 2 questions. The first question is this dog been trained to help a person with a disability? They cannot ask what the disability is, right, but they can ask if the dog has been trained for that task.
And they can ask what skills.
And what skills, exactly, what skills can your dog do to support you? So a lot of times if we're talking or somebody brings a dog in and they say, well, this is my dog, and they say, well, what does your dog do? And they say, well, my dog makes me feel comfortable. That is not a service dog, that's a comfort dog.
Emotional support comfort dog.
And comfort dogs do not have full access.
So we will be talking about comfort dogs a little bit more in another segment, but there is a big difference in public access. So service dogs that qualify under the ADA law, that they have a doctor's verification and that the dog is specifically trained and it is not a puppy and it is very well behaved, is considered a service dog and should be granted public access to anywhere the public can go on there. If that is a situation where they get turned down, they can contact the Department of Justice and make a complaint and talk about that. Emotional support animals, which can be anything, do not have public access. They are allowed in housing and in some situations in airplanes, but that law is changing as we speak. So that's basically it in a nutshell of information on what service dogs are and what they're allowed to do. We appreciate this opportunity and hope that you can share this information out in the community so we do have better service dogs out there interacting and helping their handlers with disabilities. Thanks so much. Aloha.
Thank you.